Salvete omnes. This is Abbey Latin Liber Primus, chapter 6. This is the Lectio Latina, chapter 6. This is the first Lectio Latina, the first Latin reading of Liber Primus. And this Lectio, this reading, is on Aeneas, who is the first word of the reading. So we have Aeneas erat nomen vira magno in Asia. Erat filius Dei Veneris et Anchisae, principis Traiani. Aeneae femina erat Creusa. Aeneas Creusaque filiam appellabant Ascanium. Aeneae patria erat Troia. Regnum non est in Europa, sed in Asia. So you should always read it first. You should always go ahead and read it through in Latin first. Appreciate it in Latin, kind of get a feel for the Latin. Pronounce it out loud. It should be heard out loud as well. All right, now let's go through and read. So make sure that we have a polished translation. So we're practicing. We're not that good at reading yet. Aeneas. So the word first, Aeneas, this is his nominative. It's a Greek name, Aeneas, and there are Greek first declension masculines ending in os. Much more common than in Latin. Latin doesn't have any os nominative names. So we have Aeneas. That is the nominative. Erat, that's your linking verb. So imperfect tense, that's our irregular friend sum, but in the imperfect. Eram, eras, erat. Eramus, eratis, erat. So Aeneas erat. Aeneas was. Nomen. Nomen means name. You've seen this word before. Nomen means name. So Aeneas was the name. Vira magno from vir, viri, masculine, man, and magno from magnus aum. So a great man. It could be dative or ablative. It's not ablative, so it's going to be dative. I imagine that with nomen and a form of sum here, we have a dative of possession. So Aeneas was the name to a great man. So a great man's name was Aeneas, or Aeneas was a great man's name. In Asia, in plus the ablative, Asia shows location, in Asia. Aeneas was the name of a great man in Asia. Great man in Asia had the name Aeneas. So check out the map. We have in Asia, remember to the Romans, this was Asia, Europa, Africa, Asia, and Troia. This is where Aeneas lived. He was from Troia in Asia, Troy. Erat filius, so erat, there we have the existential sum. He was, imperfect tense, used to be in the past. He was erat filius, the son, nominative singular subject. He was the son, we're still talking about Aeneas. He was the son Dei Veneris. We have Dei from Dea, I, feminine. This is going to be the genitive singular. He was the son of, or we could say the son to. He was the son of, it's probably going to be genitive possession. He was the son of the goddess Veneris. This is the genitive of Venus Veneris. That's Venus. He was the son of the goddess Venus, the goddess of love and beauty. Et Anchisae. This is the genitive singular of the Greek name Anchises. So that's Anchises in English. We say his name Anchises. Anchises is the father of Aeneas. He was a principis Troiani. So a prince of Troy, or a Trojan prince, Troiani, Trojan prince. Aeneas was the name of a great man in Asia. He was the son of the goddess Venus, and Anchises, a Trojan prince. So, pretty good life for him, huh? dad is a Trojan prince, which pretty much kind of makes him a Trojan prince, or at least in the royal house of Troy. And his mom was a goddess of love and beauty. I bet Aeneas never had a bad day in his life. Let's read on. Aeneae femina erat Creusa. So Aeneae femina. Aeneae, that could be the genitive or the dative of Aeneas. Femina, the nominative singular feminine, mean woman. Femina can also mean wife in some contexts. So using context, what's around this word, determine the best translation for it. It can mean woman, and that's the way we've been translating it thus far. It can also mean wife. Erat, once again, our irregular friend sum in the imperfect, and then Creusa. Creusa is the nominative singular, that's her name. So the wife, the femina, of Aeneas, or it could even be a dative of possession, the wife to Aeneas, Aeneas's wife. Erat Creusa. Aeneas's wife was Creusa. And really, it doesn't matter if it's a genitive or a dative here. It would be authorial intent. And sometimes you, as the translator, have to decide authorial intent. Now, that doesn't mean that I, as the teacher, will not mark you wrong. So pay attention. Aeneas's wife was Creusa. Aeneas Creusaque. So nominative and nominative. Aeneas and Creusa, they're going to be doing the verb filium. Filium is the accusative direct object of filius e masculine son. They're going to do something to their son. Appellabant, from appello, appellare, appellavi, appellatus, to call by name or call, in the third plural imperfect. So the two of them, Aeneas and Creusa, were calling, they used to call, or they were naming, or they named, their filium, their son, Ascanium. Ascanium. Ascanium, in the nominative, his name is Ascanius. Here he's the accusative. He's technically a predicate accusative. You'll learn about that later. But he's what they call their accusative direct object son. They call him Ascanium, Ascanius. Another name for Ascanius was Iulus, and from Iulus is derived the Roman name Iulius, like a very famous Roman name, Gaius Iulius Caesar, Gaius Julius Caesar. The Julian house claimed descent from Aeneas. Of course, Aeneas, son of the goddess of love, that would mean that Julius Caesar has the goddess of love in his family tree. Also, as we will come to find out, that the descendants of Aeneas will be Romulus and Remus. His father was Mars. So Julius Caesar has both Venus, the goddess of love, and Mars, the god of war, in his family tree. Not bad. Aeneae patria erat Troia. So Aeneae, either genitive or dative. Patria, nominative singular, feminine, subject, homeland, native land, home country. Erat, our irregular friend, the imperfect of sum, and then Troia, the nominative singular feminine of Troy. So Aeneas's homeland, or the homeland to Aeneas, and we're going to translate it as Aeneas's homeland, erat Troia. Aeneas's homeland was Troy. Troy was Aeneas's homeland, Troia, city right here. It's part of a larger region of Ossia called the Troad. They were good with horses. There were plains, pastures for training horses. Regnum non est in Europa, sed in Ossia. So the kingdom, regnum, kingdom of Troy, regnum, non est in Europa. The kingdom is not in Europe, sed in Ossia. And notice we're switched to the present tense, est, instead of erat. The kingdom of Troy, it's not a kingdom anymore, but it still is there in this location. And, back in the day, it was not considered to be part of Europa, but in Ossia. Troy is in ruins, and it was once a place and still is a place. In bello longo, Graeci contra viros Troiae pugnabant. et Troiam altam occupabant. Fugere temptabat Aeneas, et cum patre et femina et filio. Anchisen portabat, et manum filii occupabat. Feminae narrabat, a Troia ad Europam cum amicis nostris navigabimus. All right, in a long war, a 10-year war, mythology tells us, a 10-year-long siege. In bello longo, the Graeci, the people of Graecia, so a Graecus aon, something that is Greek. These are the plural masculine Greeks, the Greek men. The Greeks, contra, against, takes the accusative, viros, against the men, Troiae, genitive, the men of Troy. So in a long war, the Greeks against the men of Troy, pugnabant, were fighting. Third plural, imperfect of pugno, pugnare. The Greeks were fighting against the men of Troy in a long war. And Troiam altam occupabant, and they were seizing. Troiam altam, the accusative direct object. Tall Troy. Citadel of Troy was tall, set up on a hill. And they were seizing tall Troy, high Troy. Fugere temptabat Aeneas. So I think there's a footnote on this. Fugere temptabat. We have Aeneas, temptabat. He was attempting, fugere, to flee. This is an infinitive, to flee. Aeneas was trying to flee, was attempting to flee, because the Greeks, they seized his homeland, they seized his city, they took his city, they set it on fire. So Aeneas was trying to flee. You can see him right here, fleeing with his father, Anchises, his little son, Ascanius Iulus, and his wife, Creusa, as everything burns and goes crazy around them. We have et cum patre, et femina, et filio. So we have et and et and et, correlatives. So this thing and this thing and this thing. So cum takes the ablative, showing accompaniment. Cum patre, with his, this is the ablative of pater patris, a noun you will become very familiar with soon, meaning father. So with his father, Anchises, Anchises. So with his father, et femina, with his wife, with his woman, ablative of accompaniment, et filio, and with his son. You can go ahead and take the preposition cum with patre, and femina, and filio, and the et's kind of help you out there, saying that this thing should also go with this thing, and this preposition should also go with this noun as well. So Aeneas was trying to flee with his father, comma, and his wife, comma, and his son, period. Anchisen portabat. Anchisen, this is a Greek accusative, whereas the Romans like their M's. Their M's for the accusative. The Greeks like their N's. Anchisen portabat. He was carrying, Aeneas, still the same subject. He was carrying Anchises, his father, et manum filii occupabat, and the manum, that's word for hand in the accusative, and the hand, the manum filii, genitive, of his son, that's Ascanius Iulus, occupabat, he was taking, he was seizing. So he was carrying his father, Anchises, he was carrying Anchises and was taking the hand of his son. So Aeneas is always cited as an example of filial piety, as he carries his aged forebearer, his father, on his shoulders, his father too old, weak, infirm to run properly out of the city. So he's going to help his old man father. But the next generation, his little son, he takes him dutifully by the hand so that they can successfully flee Troy as it burns down around them. Wait, what about his wife? Well, honey, you're just going to have to follow close behind as best you can. Try to keep up. Don't fall behind. Don't get lost. And of course, if you've read the poem, you know what happens to her. Feminae narrabat. So feminae, either genitive or dative or nominative plural. Narrabat, well, that tells us what that is. So narrabat is third singular imperfect. Still the same subject. He was telling. That makes this dative. He was telling to his wife, and this is what he was telling her. He was telling his wife, Troia, plus the ablative, separation. The ablative of Troia, I feminine. Troia, from Troy, away from Troy. Ad, preposition plus the accusative, motion towards, ad Europam, towards Europe, from Troy, towards Europe. Cum, preposition plus the ablative, taking, showing accompaniment. So, cum amicis nostris, noster, nostra, nostrum, our, with our friends, cum amicis nostris. So we're going to do whatever it is we're about to do in the company of our friends. Navigabimus. First person plural mus, future tense be, because it's about to happen, hasn't happened yet, it will happen, of navigo, navigare, navigavi, navigatus, to sail. So from Troy, we're leaving Troy, we're going motion towards to Europe, along with our friends, we will sail. So he was telling his wife, parentheses, I'm sorry, not parentheses, quotation marks, we will sail from Troy to Europe with our friends. We will sail with our friends from Troy to Europe. End quotation marks. Optime, very well done. That was your first Lectio Latina. There will be more Latin readings in the future. So excellent, Optime, you are done with chapter 6, ready to be assessed and then move on to chapter 7. Valete omnes.